Hello and welcome to part 7 now, I think it is, on my horror DVD collection, and I'd just like to firstly apologise for the crappy lighting. It's very overcast today, which is kind of strange because we just had a heat wave, but that seems to be well and truly over. It's very dark outside and not much natural light, so I apologise if this doesn't look very good, but I'll have to soldier on in. Anyway, first up we've got Carrie, directed by Brian De Palma, released in 1976, and this is based on a Stephen King novel of the same name and centres around the titular character of Carrie, played by Sissy Spacek. She's this abused, depressed, ostracised young schoolgirl. Her mother's this religious freak who constantly pushes her beliefs on her, very hard and fanatical. School pupils very cruel towards her, constantly teasing and tormenting, and they never seem to let up, and as a result she's kind of become a loner and sick to herself. She's emotionally scarred, but through that pain she discovers she has this dormant telekinetic power within her that seems to surface when she's emotionally distressed, whether it be anger or confusion or sadness. And in the beginning she can't seem to control it, it's involuntary, but she learns to harness it and bring it on by command. But there are still instances where it becomes out of control, and yeah, she has no bearing of when it's going to happen. Now, this is a classic movie. A lot of people would have seen it. It's directed by Brian De Palma, as I said, very famous director now, and his earlier work was dominated by horror films like Sisters and Dressed to Kill, The Fury. Yeah, his direction really stands out in this. It's got great direction and story. The acting is another standout. Sissy Spacek is really good as Carrie. Really feel for her very sad portrayal of this young woman. Her mother also is really good, Piper Laurie, both nominated for Oscars for their portrayals. So it's got a really good cast, and they're all put to really good use in this. Another standout is it's got some really strong scenes in there. Like, one of the most famous, probably the most famous out of the movie, is that beginning in the showers where Carrie has the first period. And as I said, she's grown up in this sheltered lifestyle. She doesn't really know about sex education and all that kind of thing, so she thinks she's bleeding to death. She's crying and she's distressed, and all the school pupils that are in the changing rooms are just laughing and teasing, and yeah, it's very distressing, and you really feel for the character. Also, that big climax at the end is very good, and it's probably got one of the best jump scenes out there too. I won't say what again because I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, that last sequence is, yeah, as I said, one of the most effective jump scenes in a movie. So in closing, I'd say it's a very good film. If you haven't seen it already, go out and see it. And just out of interest, there's a remake out there, TV remake. I think it's 2001 it came out, and it's got Angela Bettis from May in it. It's not really worth it, but if you're really interested in the Carrie movies, you might want to check it out just to see where they took the concept, but it's not essential viewing. This one is, however. It's a really good film. Carrie. Next up we have Castle of Blood, black and white gothic ghost story from 1964, directed by Antonio Maghetti, and he's a very prolific director. He's dipped into just about every genre there is, whether it be westerns or dramas, thrillers. He's got a few notable horror efforts out there like Cannibal Apocalypse, I think it is, and Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye, but this is probably the best out of all his films I've seen. It also stars the Italian scream starlet Barbara Steele, who you might know from Bloody Sunday and The Ghost. She's very enigmatic, very striking. She seems to have a presence about her. And it's based on an Edgar Allan Poe story called Night of the Living Dead. No relation to the Romero movie, but it also incorporates Poe into the story. This young journalist travels to London, I think it is, to interview Poe for a publication. While he's there, one of the questions incites Poe to state that all his novels are based on fact, that they all actually happened, and the journalist is very skeptical and dismissive, condescending towards Poe. And at this point, another patron puts a wager to him and says, if you can spend a night in my haunted castle, I'll pay you all this money. And so he gets taken out to this isolated haunted castle, and he initially thinks he's alone, but throughout the night he encounters all these inhabitants of the castle, one of which is Elizabeth, played by Barbara Steele, who has an attraction to him. And as the night goes on, he realises that they're actually all ghosts, and they're reenacting their violent deaths. They become more and more extreme, so he decides he's going to try and get out of there and take Elizabeth with him. She insists that he'll be able to restore her life. Now this one is a very classically done, very melodramatic and gothic, and all round it's a really good movie. Beautiful black and white photography, haunting atmosphere, and a great soundtrack. Also really good acting in there too, so yeah, highly recommended that one. Right, next up we have an Argento movie with Cat of Nine Tails, and this is an early giallo effort from 1970. It follows around a blind ex-journalist, if you can believe that, who overhears this plot to murder, and he enlists the help of a fellow journalist to investigate and get to the bottom of it. Now, it's very hard to talk about this movie because it seems to lack the power of his latter works like Op Tenebrae, Deep Red. It just seems unpolished and overly convoluted, less focused. It's a very confusing movie. The story has a lot of twists and turns, but they don't really amount to much. I mean, it has all the markings of a really great Argento movie. Mystery, intrigue, lots of stalk and slash and blood and gore, great visuals, great soundtrack, but it's just less memorable. And yeah, in the light of his other movies, it doesn't really stand up as high as the other ones. So yeah, if you're an Argento completist, definitely go out and see this one because it's a really good film, but don't expect the quality of Deep Red or Tenebrae or something like that, because yeah, it's decidedly lacking, but still a really good movie. So yeah, Cat of Nine Tails. Lastly, we have Cemetery Man, or Deli Morte Delimore, directed by Michele Soavi in 1993. As you may have noticed, this was on my top 10 list. When I first saw this movie, I was just blown away. Had very high expectations, but it exceeded them. So yeah, I'll state flatly right off the bat, I think it's a flawless movie. I'll get right into it. It follows around a young man named Francisco Delimore, played by Rupert Everett, and his dim-witted companion Nagi, who work at this isolated graveyard. At night they also function as watchmen who monitor the grounds looking for returners, corpses that have come back to life which have to be dispatched. After some tragic events following the arrival of this mysterious widow, Francisco begins to question existence and the meaning of life. It's based on an Italian graphic novel, and Francisco, played by Rupert Everett, just inhabits the character. The acting is superb, the dialogue is really engaging and mesmerising. The imagery is just beautiful, very stylish and artistic, very rich in content and lots of symbolism and hidden meanings, just beautiful stuff. So the story is one of the standouts. It also has just lots of metaphors and very thought-provoking. You'll think about this movie afterwards, try to dissect it and critique and analyse it. It's a really, really good film. It was also marked a point in Michele Soavi's career where he was able to branch out and do what he wanted. Previously, on films like The Church and Stage Fright, he'd been working under Dario Argento as a producer, and he wasn't happy with the constraints he was put under. He thought his vision was being hampered, but with this he was able to go full tilt, and anything he wanted he just did. And I think he's a visionary because this movie, as I said, is breathtaking. I just love it, everything about it. It's just, yeah, very haunting, and it's equal parts funny and poignant and meaningful. It's also got all the horror stuff in there. It's very bloody and tense, but yeah, it's just wonderfully droll and yeah, just a great movie. So if you haven't seen this movie, go out and see it because it is truly one of the classics. I'd say best film of the decade, best horror film of the decade easily. I'd easily put it up there with any horror great too. It's that good. I know it's a big statement, but I think it's that good. So yeah, Cemetery Man, great film. And that's going to have to conclude part 7. Look for part 8 in the future. So thank you for watching, everyone.